The great ship Nexara station floated in the darkness between three star systems. It was the largest structure ever built by the Galactic Council. Millions of beings from hundreds of worlds lived and worked inside its metal walls. But today was special. Today, leaders from across the known galaxy had gathered for the Summit of Worlds. Ambassador Yuna stood at the entrance of the main council chamber. She was a small woman with sharp eyes and black hair tied neatly behind her head. Her formal dress was simple compared to the flowing robes and glowing armor worn by other delegates. But she did not care about looking impressive. She cared about doing her job well. Behind her stood three figures in plain black uniforms. They were her security team. Captain Taehyun was the tallest of them. He had a calm face and moved with the quiet confidence of someone who had seen many battles. Lieutenant Jiwoo was a woman with short hair and watchful eyes that never stopped scanning the room. Sergeant Dongwoo was the youngest, but his broad shoulders and steady hands showed years of hard training. None of them carried weapons. Delegate Vorath noticed this immediately. He was an Alluvian, a species with 4 eyes and blue-gray skin. His people were known for their sharp minds and careful observations. Nothing escaped his attention. He watched the human group enter the chamber and take their assigned seats. Then he leaned toward High Chancellor Malrix, who sat on a raised platform at the center of the room. "Chancellor," Vorath whispered, "look at the humans." Malrix turned 2 of his 6 eyes toward the Earth delegation. "What about them? They're guards. They carry nothing. No weapons at all." The High Chancellor studied the 3 humans in black. It was true. While every other security team in the chamber bristled with plasma rifles, energy shields, and stun devices, the humans stood empty-handed. "Strange," Malrix agreed. "Perhaps they could not afford proper equipment. Earth is still a young member of our union." Vorath shook his head slowly. "Or perhaps they are fools who do not understand the dangers of galactic politics." Around the chamber, other delegates had noticed the same thing. The Kethrani ambassador, a tall being covered in hard scales, laughed quietly with his advisors. The Kethrani were proud warriors who never went anywhere without at least 2 weapons on their bodies. To them, the unarmed humans looked like children pretending to be adults. Even the Orvani, a peaceful species of monks who rejected violence, carried ceremonial stun staves. They believed in being prepared for any situation. But the humans, nothing. Ambassador Yuna seemed unaware of the attention. She sat in her chair and reviewed her notes on a small tablet. Her guards positioned themselves at the edge of the chamber, their hands clasped loosely behind their backs. Captain Taehyun stood perfectly still. His eyes moved slowly across the room, studying each delegation, each entrance, each shadow. He noticed the Kethrani laughing at him. He noticed Vorath's curious stares. He noticed the hidden cameras in the ceiling and the energy barriers around the High Chancellor's platform. He noticed everything. And he said nothing. The summit officially began when High Chancellor Malrix rose from his seat. His voice echoed through the chamber, amplified by ancient technology. "Welcome, honored delegates. We gather today to discuss matters of great importance to our union. The disputed Helix Corridor, trade agreements with the outer systems, the growing threat of the Black Veil Syndicate." At the mention of the Black Veil Syndicate, several delegates shifted nervously in their seats. The Syndicate was a criminal organization that had grown powerful in recent years. They dealt in weapons, stolen technology, and assassination. No one knew who led them or where they were based. But everyone feared them. The first day of discussions was long and boring. Delegates argued about mining rights and shipping lanes. Ambassador Yuna spoke twice, offering Earth's support for peaceful solutions. Her words were polite but firm. She did not back down when the Kethrani challenged her, and she did not show weakness when the Alluvians questioned humanity's place in galactic affairs. By the end of the day, most delegates had forgotten about the unarmed guards. They had more important things to worry about. But Vorath had not forgotten. That evening, he found Ambassador Yuna in the station's diplomatic gardens. It was a beautiful space filled with plants from 100 different worlds. Artificial sunlight streamed through glass panels in the ceiling. "Ambassador," Vorath said, approaching her carefully. "May I speak with you?" Yuna looked up from the flower she had been examining. "Of course, Delegate Vorath. How can I help you? I hope you will not find my question offensive. He paused, choosing his words carefully. But I noticed that your guards carry no weapons. Is this a human custom I am not aware of? Yuna smiled. It was a small smile, calm and knowing. Not exactly a custom, delegate. More of a preference. A preference? Vorath blinked all four of his eyes. But the summit is dangerous. There are beings here who wish harm to many delegates. Surely your guards would be more effective with proper equipment. That depends on how you define effective, Yuna replied. She looked over her shoulder at Taehyun, who stood 20 meters away, watching them. My guards are very good at their jobs. They do not need weapons to do them. Vorath did not understand. He had studied human history before the summit. He knew they were a young species, barely capable of faster-than-light travel. Their planet was small, their technology limited. How could their guards possibly compete with the armed warriors of older, more advanced civilizations? Forgive me, Ambassador, he said, but that seems unwise. Yuna's smile grew slightly wider. Many beings have thought that about humans. Delegate. They usually change their minds eventually. Before Vorath could respond, she turned and walked away. Captain Taehyun fell into step behind her, his eyes never leaving Vorath until they disappeared around a corner. Vorath stood alone in the garden for a long time. He could not shake the feeling that he was missing something important. The human ambassador had not been afraid or embarrassed by his question. She had been amused, as if she knew something he did not, as if the whole galaxy was about to learn a lesson it would never forget. He returned to his quarters that night, with a strange feeling in his stomach. In all his years of diplomatic service, he had learned to trust his instincts, and right now, his instincts were telling him that the humans were not what they appeared to be. He just could not figure out what they really were. Not yet. 3 days passed at the Summit of Worlds. The arguments grew louder, and the tempers grew shorter. The Kethrani accused the Illuvians of stealing resources from the Helix Corridor. The Illuvians accused the Kethrani of threatening innocent mining ships. Both sides refused to back down. Ambassador Yuna watched the chaos with tired eyes. She had slept only 4 hours each night since the summit began. There was too much work to do, too many messages to send back to Earth, too many meetings to attend, but she never complained. That was not her way. On the morning of the 4th day, something felt different. Captain Taehyun noticed it first. He stood at his usual position near the chamber entrance, watching the delegates take their seats. Everything looked normal. The same arguments, the same angry faces, the same armed guards standing at attention around the room, but something was wrong. Taehyun could not explain how he knew. It was a feeling deep in his chest, a tightness that came from years of training and combat experience. His body was telling him to be ready. He looked at Jiwoo and Dongwoo. They felt it too. He could see it in the way they stood, the slight tension in their shoulders, the way their eyes moved faster than usual. None of them spoke. They did not need to. They had worked together for 6 years. They communicated in glances and small gestures that no one else could understand. The session began like all the others. High Chancellor Malrix called for order. A Kethrani delegate stood to make a speech about territorial rights. Ambassador Yuna listened politely, her tablet ready for notes. Then the lights went out. The chamber plunged into complete darkness. Emergency sirens screamed through the station's speakers. Delegates shouted in fear and confusion. The universal translator could not keep up with all the different languages crying out at once. Taehyun did not hesitate. The moment the lights died, he was already moving. His eyes adjusted to the darkness faster than most species could manage. Humans had evolved as hunters. After all, they could see better in low light than anyone in the galaxy realized. He saw them immediately. 6 figures in black armor moving through the chaos. They carried plasma pistols and molecular blades, professional killers, assassins from the Black Veil Syndicate. They were heading straight for Ambassador Yuna. The Illuvian guards raised their weapons. But they could not see their targets. They fired blindly into the darkness, their plasma bolts hitting walls and empty chairs. The Kethrani warriors stumbled over fallen delegates, their heavy armor slowing them down. None of them were fast enough. Taehyun crossed the distance to the first assassin in 3 seconds. The killer never saw him coming. One moment he was running toward the human ambassador. The next moment, a hand closed around his wrist and twisted. The crack of breaking bone echoed through the chamber. Before the assassin could scream, Taehyun's elbow struck his temple, and he dropped to the floor. 3 seconds. One enemy down. Jiwoo moved like water through the chaos. She ducked under a wild plasma shot and came up behind the second assassin. Her forearm wrapped around his throat from behind. She squeezed for exactly 2 seconds, cutting off the blood to his brain. He went limp in her arms, and she let him fall. Dongwoo faced 2 attackers at once. They were faster than the others, better trained. One of them actually managed to swing his blade at Dongwoo's head. But the sergeant was faster. He leaned back just enough to let the blade pass by his face. Then he grabbed the attacker's arm, pulled him forward, and drove his knee into the man's stomach. As the first assassin doubled over, Dongwoo spun and kicked the second one in the chest. The kick was so powerful that the assassin flew backward 3 meters before crashing into a row of seats. He did not get up. Taehyun found the last 2 assassins near Ambassador Yuna's seat. They had almost reached her. Another second and they would have been close enough to fire. They did not get that second. Taehyun grabbed the first assassin by the back of his armor and threw him into the wall. The impact left a dent in the metal. Before the body hit the ground, Taehyun was already dealing with the final attacker. This one was the leader. Taehyun could tell by the way he moved, the quality of his equipment. The assassin was good. He had probably killed dozens of targets across the galaxy. None of that mattered. Taehyun caught the assassin's blade hand and twisted it until the weapon fell. Then he struck 3 times in rapid succession. Solar plexus, throat, temple. The assassin collapsed like a puppet with cut strings. The backup lights flickered on. 30 seconds had passed since the darkness began. The chamber was silent now. Delegates stared at the scene before them with wide eyes and open mouths. 6 assassins lay unconscious on the floor, their weapons scattered around them. None of them were dead, but none of them would be waking up anytime soon. And in the middle of it all stood 3 humans in plain black uniforms. They were not even breathing hard. Ambassador Yuna had not moved from her seat. She looked at Taehyun and gave him a small nod. He nodded back. Delegate Vorath lay on the ground where he had fallen during the chaos. He stared up at the human guards with all 4 of his eyes. His mind tried to process what he had just witnessed. But it could not. It was impossible. It went against everything he knew about combat and warfare. 3 unarmed beings had defeated 6 professional killers in less than half a minute. They had moved so fast that even the emergency recordings would have trouble tracking them. They had used nothing but their bare hands. High Chancellor Malric slowly rose from behind his protective barrier. His 6 eyes focused on the humans. For the first time in his long political career, he had no words. The Kithrani ambassador's scales had turned pale. His guards stood frozen, their weapons useless in their hands. They had always believed their species was the greatest warriors in the galaxy. They did not believe that anymore. Captain Taehyun turned to face the chamber. He straightened his uniform calmly, as if he had just finished a morning exercise instead of a fight for his life. "The threat has been neutralized," he said. His voice was quiet and steady. "Chancellor, you may wish to call station security to collect the prisoners." Then he returned to his position at the edge of the chamber. Jiwoo and Dongwoo joined him. They stood with their hands clasped behind their backs, just as they had before, as if nothing had happened, as if destroying 6 elite assassins was just another part of their daily routine. The delegates did not speak for a very long time. They simply stared at the 3 humans in black, and for the first time, they understood that they had been wrong about humanity. Terribly, terribly wrong. The hours after the attack were filled with chaos and confusion. Station security flooded the council chamber. Medical teams checked every delegate for injuries. The 6 assassins were taken to high-security cells deep within Nexara Station. But none of that was what anyone wanted to talk about. They wanted to talk about the humans. High Chancellor Malric called an emergency meeting of the senior delegates. They gathered in a private room far from the main chamber. Vorath was there, along with the Kithrani ambassador, the Orvani High Monk, and representatives from 12 other species. Ambassador Yuna was not invited. Neither were her guards. What we saw today changes everything. Malrix began. His voice was heavy with concern. I have watched the security recordings 17 times. I still cannot believe what my eyes are showing me. He activated a holographic display. The recording played, showing the attack from multiple angles. The delegates watched in silence as the three humans moved through the darkness. Even in slow motion, their speed was almost impossible to follow. The human called Taehyun covered 9 meters in less than 2 seconds. Malrix continued. That is faster than any species in our database. And he did it in complete darkness, without any sensory enhancement technology. Perhaps they have hidden implants, suggested the Kethrani ambassador. His name was Rekton, and he was struggling to accept what he had seen. His people had always believed they were the finest warriors in the known galaxy. Cybernetic enhancements that we cannot detect. Our medical scanners found nothing, Vorath replied. I had the same thought, so I requested a full analysis of the human guards. Their bodies contain no artificial components. They are completely natural. The room fell silent. Then how? Asked the Orvani High Monk. He was an ancient being with silver skin and gentle eyes. How can flesh and bone move like that? How can any living creature fight with such terrible efficiency? No one had an answer. I have studied human history, Vorath said slowly. When they first made contact with the Union, we classified them as a young and primitive species. Their technology was limited. Their planet was small. We assumed they would need centuries to catch up with older civilizations. We were wrong, Rekton admitted. It was clearly painful for him to say those words. Not wrong about their technology, Vorath corrected. Wrong about them. Wrong about what they truly are. High Chancellor Malrix made a decision. I will speak with Ambassador Yuna privately. We need answers, and she is the only one who can provide them. The meeting ended, but the fear did not. As the delegates returned to their quarters, they passed human crew members working on the station. Engineers, technicians, service workers, ordinary humans going about their ordinary jobs. But now the delegates looked at them differently. They noticed the way humans moved, smooth and confident. They noticed the strength hidden beneath simple uniforms. They noticed the calm awareness in human eyes. Always watching, always ready. What else had they failed to notice about this strange species? That evening, High Chancellor Malrix summoned Ambassador Yuna to his private chambers. It was a grand room filled with artifacts from 100 worlds. Malrix sat in a chair made from the wood of ancient Illuvian trees. He gestured for Yuna to sit across from him. She did so calmly, her hands folded in her lap. Ambassador, Malrix began. I must ask you some difficult questions. I hope you will understand that I ask them out of concern for the safety of this station and everyone aboard it. Of course, Chancellor. Ask whatever you wish. Malrix took a deep breath. Your guards? They carried no weapons. Yet they defeated 6 trained assassins in 30 seconds. They moved faster than any species in our records. They incapacitated professional killers with nothing but their bodies. He leaned forward. How is this possible? Yuna's expression did not change. Chancellor, I think there has been a misunderstanding. You see my guards without weapons and assume they are unarmed. But that is not accurate. I do not understand. Let me ask you a question first, Yuna said. When an Illuvian soldier loses his weapon in battle, what does he do? Malrix considered the question. He retreats to find another weapon, or he surrenders. Without a weapon, an Illuvian cannot fight effectively, and the Kethrani, the same, though they are too proud to surrender easily. But without weapons, they are vulnerable. Yuna nodded. That is true for most species in the galaxy. Your bodies evolved for other purposes, running, swimming, thinking. Fighting came later, with the development of tools and technology. She paused, choosing her next words carefully. Humans are different, Chancellor. We evolved as predators on a violent world. Our bodies are designed for hunting, fighting, and killing. Every part of us is a weapon. Malrix felt a chill run through his body. What do you mean? Our hands can crush bone. Our legs can deliver kicks powerful enough to shatter armor. Our reflexes operate faster than conscious thought. We can fight in complete darkness because our ancestors hunted in the night. She held up her hand, showing her blunt human fingers. These do not look dangerous to you, do they? No claws, no poison, no natural blades. But a trained human can kill with a single strike from this hand. We learned how thousands of years ago, and we have been perfecting those techniques ever since. Malric stared at the small human woman sitting across from him. She looked so fragile, so ordinary, yet her words painted a picture of something far more terrifying than any monster in galactic legend. Your species, he said slowly. You are weapons. Una smiled that strange human smile. Yes, Chancellor. We are. My guards do not carry plasma rifles because plasma rifles would slow them down. They do not need shields because their best defense is ending the fight before it begins. Why did you not tell us this before? Would you have believed us? Una asked. Humanity is young in galactic terms. We knew that older species would dismiss our warnings as arrogance. So we waited. We knew that eventually, something would happen to show the truth. Malrix thought about the attack, about the speed, the precision, the absolute control the humans had shown. He thought about the recordings he had watched 17 times. The assassins never had a chance, he realized. From the moment they entered that chamber, they were already dead. They just did not know it yet. No, Una agreed. They did not. The High Chancellor sat in silence for a long moment. His mind was racing with implications and possibilities. If 3 human guards could do what he had witnessed, what could an army of humans do? What could a planet of them do? Ambassador, he finally said, I think it is time the Council learned the full truth about humanity. All of it. Una nodded slowly. I think you are right, Chancellor. I will prepare a presentation for tomorrow. But I warn you, what you learn may change how you see the galaxy forever. Malrix looked at the small woman with new eyes. New fear. I suspect, he said quietly. It already has. The council chamber was full. Every delegate from every world had come to hear the human presentation. They sat in nervous silence, waiting for answers to the questions that had haunted them since the attack. Ambassador Una stood at the center of the chamber. Behind her, a massive holographic display waited to be activated. Her 3 guards stood at the edges of the room, watching the crowd with their calm, steady eyes. Thank you all for coming, Una began. I know that the events of yesterday have raised many questions. Today, I hope to answer them. She activated the display. A blue and green planet appeared, spinning slowly in the holographic light. This is Earth, our home world. To understand humans, you must first understand where we come from. The image changed, showing the surface of the planet. Mountains taller than anything on most civilized worlds. Oceans that covered most of the surface. Forests and deserts and frozen wastelands. Earth is not a gentle world, Una continued. The temperature ranges from 60 degrees below zero to 60 degrees above. The planet experiences earthquakes, volcanic eruptions, massive storms, and floods. The atmosphere itself tries to kill you in 100 different ways. She looked around the chamber. Many delegates seemed confused. What did this have to do with combat? But the environment was not our greatest challenge. That honor belongs to the other life forms on our planet. The display shifted to show creatures. Lions with massive teeth. Bears that stood 3 meters tall. Wolves that hunted in packs. Snakes with poison that could kill in seconds. Earth is full of predators. Creatures that evolved to hunt, to kill, to survive at any cost. And humans evolved alongside them. Lieutenant Jiwoo stepped forward. She had been chosen to explain the next part because she could speak without emotion. This was information, not boasting. Facts, not threats. Most intelligent species in this union evolved from prey animals, Jiwoo said. Your ancestors survived by running away from danger, by hiding, by using intelligence to avoid conflict. You developed technology to protect yourselves from stronger creatures. She paused. Humans did not evolve that way. We are predators. Our ancestors did not run from danger. They ran toward it. The display showed early humans hunting on ancient plains. We are what scientists call persistence predators. We did not have the speed of other hunters, So we developed a different strategy. We would chase our prey for hours, sometimes days, until the animal collapsed from exhaustion. While other predators relied on short bursts of speed, we relied on endurance. Your species can run for days? Rektan asked, disbelief clear in his voice. Trained humans can run for over 100 kilometers without stopping, Jiwoo confirmed. Our bodies are designed to regulate heat and manage energy over long periods. This is why humans sweat, while most other species do not. It is a cooling system that allows us to keep moving when other creatures must rest. The display changed again, showing human anatomy. Our skeletal structure is optimized for combat. Our shoulders can rotate fully, allowing us to throw objects with deadly accuracy. Our hands can grip with crushing force or manipulate objects with delicate precision. Our legs can deliver kicks that generate over 1,000 kilograms of pressure. Sergeant Dongwu stepped forward next. Humans can survive injuries that would kill most species, he said. We can lose limbs and continue fighting. We can suffer organ damage and still function. Our blood clots quickly to prevent bleeding. Our immune systems fight off infections that would be fatal to others. He held up his arm, showing a long scar that ran from his elbow to his wrist. I received this wound 3 years ago. A blade cut through muscle and touched bone. I was back on duty in 6 weeks. The delegates stared in horrified fascination. But physical ability is only part of what makes humans dangerous, Yuna said, taking control of the presentation again. The other part is training. The display showed humans fighting. Ancient warriors with swords and spears. Modern soldiers with advanced weapons. And between them, thousands of years of martial arts. On Earth, we spent 200,000 years fighting each other. Tribe against tribe. Nation against nation. Humans have always been at war, and through that constant conflict, we developed thousands of ways to hurt, disable, and kill. Martial arts, Jiwoo explained. Systematic methods of combat using the human body. Striking, grappling, throwing, joint manipulation. Each technique refined over centuries to be as efficient as possible. Every human soldier is trained in at least 4 different martial disciplines, Dongwu added. We learn to fight with weapons, and without. We train our bodies until combat becomes instinct. Captain Taehyun finally spoke. His voice was quiet, but it carried through the entire chamber. When I was 6 years old, I began training in Taekwondo. At 10, I added judo. At 15, boxing and wrestling. By the time I joined the military, I had spent more hours learning to fight than most species spend learning to read. He looked around the room, meeting the eyes of delegates who had once laughed at his lack of weapons. I can kill in 47 different ways using only my hands. I can disable an opponent in over 200 ways without causing permanent damage. I can do all of this in complete darkness, while injured, while exhausted, while outnumbered. The chamber was absolutely silent. This is why we do not carry weapons to your meetings, Taehyun continued. Weapons require thought. You must draw them, aim them, fire them. Each step takes time that I do not need. He demonstrated by raising his hand and making a striking motion. It was so fast that most delegates saw only a blur. In the time it takes to pull a trigger, I can cross the distance between us and end the fight. Weapons do not make me more dangerous. They make me slower. High Chancellor Malrix finally found his voice. It came out as a whisper. You are saying that your entire species is like this? That every human is a potential killer? Not every human, Yuna admitted. Many of our people never learn to fight at all. But those who do train seriously become something that other species cannot match. Our guards are among the best. But they are not unique. Earth has millions of warriors with similar abilities. She let that number sink in. Millions. We did not come to the Galactic Union to conquer, Yuna said firmly. We came because we wanted to learn, to trade, to make friends. But we also knew that we needed to be able to protect ourselves and our allies. So we trained. We prepared, and we waited for the moment when the galaxy would see what humanity truly is. She gestured at her guards. Now you have seen it. The display shut off, leaving the chamber in normal light. Delegates sat frozen in their seats. Everything they had believed about the young human species had been shattered in 15 minutes. Vorath looked at the 3 guards standing at the edges of the room. They had not moved throughout the entire presentation. They stood calm and still, their hands empty, their faces neutral. And now he understood why they were the most terrifying beings he had ever seen. They were not soldiers carrying weapons. They were weapons pretending to be soldiers. The days following the human presentation were strange and tense. Delegates whispered in corridors. Security reports were rewritten. Intelligence agencies across the galaxy worked overtime to reassess everything they thought they knew about Earth. The official classification of humanity changed overnight. Where once they had been labeled as a young and developing species, they were now marked with a single word that had never been used for any other civilization in galactic history: Apex. But fear was not the only thing spreading through Nexar Station. Something else was growing too. Something unexpected: gratitude. Delegate Vorath stood in the medical bay, watching doctors treat the last of the wounded delegates. The attack had injured 17 beings, mostly from panic and falling debris, but it could have been much worse. Without the human guards, the assassins would have reached Ambassador Yuna, and they probably would not have stopped there. The Orvani High Monk approached him. The ancient being moved slowly, his silver skin reflecting the medical lights. "I have been thinking about what happened," the monk said quietly. "About what the humans did." "As have I," Vorath admitted. "It is difficult to think about anything else. They terrify me," the monk confessed. "Everything they showed us, everything they are. It goes against every principle of peace that my people hold sacred." Vorath nodded. He felt the same way. "But," the monk continued, "I cannot ignore what I saw during the attack. When the lights went out and the shooting started, I fell. I was on the ground, helpless, certain that I was going to die." The monk touched his arm, where a small bandage covered a minor wound. "The human woman, Jiwoo. She pulled me to safety before she engaged the assassins. She could have ignored me. She had more important targets to worry about. But she took the time to protect an old monk who could do nothing to help her." Vorath remembered something similar. During the chaos, he had seen Sergeant Dongwu shield the Kithrani ambassador with his own body. The young human had placed himself between the delegate and potential danger without hesitation. They did not just stop the attack, Vorath realized. They protected everyone in that chamber. All of us. "That is what I cannot stop thinking about," the monk said. "They have the power to destroy, but they chose to protect." This thought spread through the station as survivors shared their stories. The Kethrani ambassador, who had once laughed at the unarmed humans, now spoke of how Dongwu had saved his life. A young Illuvian aide described how Taehyun had pushed her under a table before the fighting even started, as if he knew exactly what was about to happen. The humans had been terrifying, yes, but they had also been guardians. On the final day of the summit, Ambassador Yuna requested permission to address the council one last time. High Chancellor Malrix granted her request without hesitation. She stood at the center of the chamber, just as she had during the presentation. But this time, the atmosphere was different. The fear was still there, but it had been joined by something else: curiosity, respect, and perhaps the beginning of trust. "I know that what you have learned about my species has been difficult to accept," Yuna began. "We are not what you expected. We are not the peaceful, harmless newcomers you thought we were." She looked around the room, meeting the eyes of delegates who had once dismissed humanity as insignificant. "We are dangerous. We know this about ourselves. Our history is written in blood, and our bodies are built for war. There is no point in pretending otherwise." Several delegates shifted uncomfortably in their seats. "But being dangerous is not the same as being evil," Yuna continued. "The same traits that make us deadly also make us loyal. We protect what matters to us with everything we have. And when we choose to stand beside someone, we do not abandon them." She turned to face High Chancellor Malrix directly. "Chancellor, the Galactic Union has existed for thousands of years. You have built something remarkable here. A community of worlds, working together despite your differences. Humanity wants to be part of that community, not as conquerors, not as threats, but as partners. And your capabilities?" Malrix asked carefully. "How do we know you will not use them against us someday?" "You do not," Yuna admitted honestly. Trust must be earned over time. We understand that, but I can tell you what we believe. She paused, choosing her words with care. Humans believe that true strength is not about destruction. It is about protection. It is about having the power to cause harm and choosing not to. It is about standing between those you care for and anything that threatens them. She gestured at her guards, who stood silent and watchful at the edges of the chamber. My guards could have killed those assassins. It would have been easy. But they chose to disable them instead. They used exactly enough force to end the threat, and not one bit more. That is what we teach our warriors. That is what we believe strength should be. The chamber was silent. You are not our enemies, Yuna said. You are not our prey. You are our potential friends, our possible allies, our future partners, and there is nothing in this galaxy, no assassin, no army, no empire, that will harm what we have chosen to protect. High Chancellor Malric stood slowly. He was old, older than most beings in the room, and he had seen many things in his long life. But he had never seen anything quite like this. Ambassador Yuna, he said formally, the council must vote on how to proceed. But I want you to know something first. He walked down from his platform, something he almost never did during official sessions. He crossed the chamber floor until he stood directly in front of the human woman. I have been Chancellor for 43 cycles. I have met thousands of ambassadors from hundreds of worlds. Most of them came to these halls seeking power, resources, or advantage. They smiled while they plotted. They spoke of peace while they prepared for war. He looked into Yuna's eyes. But I believe you are telling the truth. I believe that humanity wants to protect, not conquer. And I believe that having such protectors as allies would make the Union stronger than it has ever been. He turned to face the assembled delegates. I call for an immediate vote. The motion is to grant Earth a permanent seat on the Security Commission. All in favor? The votes came quickly. One by one, delegations registered their approval. Even the Kathrani, whose pride had been shattered by the demonstration of human ability, voted yes. In the end, it was unanimous. Humanity had earned its place among the stars. As the session ended and delegates began to leave, Vorath approached Captain Taehyun. The Illuvian had never spoken directly to the human guard before. Captain, he said, may I ask you something? Taehyun nodded slightly. In the attack, you could have killed all 6 assassins in seconds. Why did you let them live? Taehyun considered the question for a moment. Then he answered in his quiet, steady voice. Dead enemies tell no secrets. Live prisoners can be questioned. Their information will help us find the ones who sent them. He paused. And, killing is easy. Control is hard. Any warrior can destroy. A true warrior chooses when destruction is necessary and when it is not. He walked away, joining the other guards as they escorted Ambassador Yuna from the chamber. Vorath watched them go. 3 humans in plain black uniforms. No weapons on their bodies. No weapons needed. The most dangerous beings in the galaxy. And now, the Union's greatest protectors. From that day forward, human guards accompanied their delegates to every galactic summit. They always came unarmed. And no one ever questioned why. Everyone already knew the answer.